Welcome to Xian Voice. Continuing from the previous episode. The 9-Dragon Lightning Flame was ranked 12th on the Heavenly Flame ranking. There was no one present who was unaware of the strength of this flame. Moreover, with Tang Zhen's unfathomable strength, an ordinary person's spiritual strength would likely be incinerated into nothingness upon contact with it. Although the spiritual strength of those here was not weak, they were unable to endure such a test. Tang Ying's words had caused the large hall to become a lot quieter after they were spoken. The alchemists who were filled with haughtiness earlier all recoiled their necks. None of them dared to say anything. The two external elders from the Pill Tower mused for a moment before slowly uttering, "Valley Chief Tang, all of us are aware of how powerful the 9-Dragon Lightning Flame is. There is a dragon's might gathered in the Heavenly Flame. Hence, it possesses the miraculous effect of shocking one's soul. It is likely that there is hardly anyone present who is able to use one's spiritual strength to endure it." Tang Zhen smiled when he heard this. He said, "Grandmaster Huan, please rest assured that the old me knows my limits with regards to this. I will not allow anyone to be injured. As long as one is able to endure for 10 minutes within the 9-Dragon Lightning Flame, one will be considered to have passed. After all, the person who is aiding me must possess the ability to withstand the 9-Dragon Lightning Flame. Otherwise, he will only end up being injured." Tang Zhen's eyes swept over the large hall after saying this. He grinned and said, "Since I have already invited all of you Grandmasters over, I will naturally not let anyone waste their trip here. Even if you are unable to endure this 9-Dragon Lightning Flame, the Burning Flame Valley will still give everyone a big gift." Everyone in the hall finally began to think objectively after hearing these words. They did not have any grudge with Tang Zhen. Moreover, with the other party's status, there was no need for him to play any games with them. The red-clothed lady looked down at the hesitating alchemist grandmaster in the large hall beside Tang Zhen. The corner of her mouth was involuntarily curled. These fellows were all so afraid when they heard of the 9-Dragon Lightning Flame. It was as though they were afraid of her father quietly murdering them. The red-clothed lady's pretty eyes suddenly settled on a somewhat deserted spot in the large hall. Coincidentally, she saw a calm-faced Xiao Yan who was holding a teacup. She became slightly startled. This fellow did appear to be quite calm, but she wondered if this was merely an act. Since Valley Chief Tang has put it this way, it is only natural that we should not act cowardly. All right, we will perform the test as Valley Chief has proposed. A white-haired, old man swept his eyes around him. He finally nodded his head a moment later and replied. The smile on Tang Zhen's face became wider when he heard this. He flicked his finger and the bundle of silver-colored flames on his palm slowly flew forward. Finally, it was suspended in the air of the large hall. The silver-colored flames curled as it burned. 9 tiny fire dragons danced around it, appearing as though the flames possessed an intelligence. Perhaps it was because of the dragon's might permeating it, but it vaguely caused one's spiritual strength to feel somewhat suppressed. "Which Grandmaster will try first?" Tang Zhen inquired with a smile. The large hall was quiet for a moment after these words were spoken. Immediately, a white-robed, old man stood up. He cupped his hands to Tang Zhen as he said, "Since no one wants to begin, allow the old me to give it a try. The old me has long heard of the 9-Dragon Lightning Flame of the Burning Flame Valley. This trip will not be considered a waste if I am able to test its might today. KK, it is Grandmaster Hua. Please." Tang Zhen smiled as he responded. This elder is called Hua Chen. He is also an alchemist at the peak of the Tier 6 level. He possesses some reputation in the middle region. Elder Kai Huo by Xiao Yan's side seemed to be aware that Xiao Yan did not recognize any of these people. Hence, he softly introduced them to him. Xiao Yan nodded his thanks to Elder Kai Huo. After which, his eyes turned to the old man called Hua Chen. He was extremely curious about the might of this 9-Dragon Lightning Flame. The old man named Hua Chen clenched his hand and a cluster of deep red flames rose from his hand. A spiritual strength swiftly surged from between his brows as well. After which, it entered the bushel of flames. The flames immediately began to wiggle, transforming into a palm-sized human figure made of fire. The fire-human figure was completely formed from spiritual strength. However, he had added a layer of fire protection outside of the spiritual strength. This person's flame should be a kind of beast flame. However, there is too much of a gap between it and the 9-Dragon Lightning Flame. It will be unable to endure. Xiao Yan glanced at the layer of red-colored flames while muttering to himself. While Xiao Yan was muttering to himself, Hua Chen flicked his finger and the palm-sized fire human figure rushed out. Finally, it entered the cluster of silver-colored flames in front of everyone's eyes. Roar! The fire human figure had just entered the silver-colored flame when a deep dragon roar, barely audible to one's ears, suddenly sounded. The instant the dragon roar sounded, the 9 fire dragons within the silver-colored flames immediately rushed over. They violently collided with the fire human figure. One of their enormous mouths tore open and swallowed a layer of red-colored flame around the fire human figure. Groan! Hua Chen's spiritual strength was annihilated under the frightening temperature of the 9-dragon lightning flame the moment the deep red flame disappeared. His body trembled as his feet took a couple of steps back. His expression was slightly pale. It is indeed worthy of being a heavenly flame. The old me admits defeat. Hua Chen bitterly smiled and shook his head after stabilizing his body. He let out a sigh and returned to his seat with a bitter expression. The beast flame, which he was proud of, did not even possess the slightest ability to resist this 9-dragon lightning flame. Some of the alchemist grandmasters present involuntarily changed their expressions when they saw that Hua Chen was unable to even endure even a minute. Was this 9-dragon lightning flame so powerful? There were a couple of other alchemists who did not buy the thought and gave it an attempt after Hua Chen. However, all of them were unable to endure the tearing and biting of the 9 fire dragons. Not one of them could endure through the 10 minutes. The old fellow called Grandmaster Mo, who had ridiculed Xiao Yan earlier, was among them. Tang Zhen might not reveal any emotion on his face, but his heart sighed with some disappointment when he saw the alchemists failing one after another. It seemed that he could only test if the 2 external elders from the pill tower could reach the target he required. Another alchemist grandmaster failed once again. At this moment, the only ones in the large hall who had yet to make an attempt were the 2 external elders from the pill tower and Xiao Yan. Of course, Xiao Yan was naturally ignored by the others. Almost everyone's gazes were thrown to these 2 external elders. After all, only these 2 people were genuine Tier 7 alchemists within this large hall. 9-dragon lightning flame, dragon's might shakes one's soul. This test is really not an easy one. The external elder of the pill tower called Grandmaster Huan was the first to let out a soft sigh. He exchanged looks with his companion before slowly standing up. A white-colored flame rose from his palm. This flame was somewhat unusual because the flame was emitting a chilly air when it rose. Sky-cold flame? This flame of Grandmaster Huan should have been obtained from the sky-bone python's body, right? It is rumored that this sky-bone python will only appear in the regions where the bone-chilling flame appears. This beast flame within its body is similar to the bone-chilling flame. Even Tang Zhen was startled when he saw this white-colored flame that was emitting cold air. Xiao Yan raised his brows when he heard this. He was somewhat surprised as he studied the sky-cold flame in Grandmaster Huan's hand. It was unexpected that this thing was sort of related to Teacher's bone-chilling flame. Oh, the bone-chilling flame. I did not possess that kind of blessing and only managed to luckily meet the sky-bone python. Grandmaster Huan bitterly laughed, after which, his spiritual strength spread out from between his brows and merged into the flame. Immediately, the flame wiggled, transforming into a white-colored python that entered the silver-colored flame in a flash. This python, covered in a white flame, had just entered the silver flame when the 9 fire dragons within it suddenly pounced over. This time around, however, the white-colored python did possess some ability. It was able to firmly protect the flame on its surface, preventing it from being swallowed by the fire dragons. After which, the python within the flame and the fire dragons were at a stalemate. The expression of Grandmaster Huan became more and more solemn. The sky-cold flame might be somewhat related to the bone-chilling flame, but it was ultimately not a heavenly flame. It was impossible for it to truly fight the 9-dragon lightning flame. Time swiftly flowed by in the quiet, large hall. Just when the white-colored fire python was about to be completely swallowed by the 9 fire dragons, the 10-minute mark had finally arrived. Grandmaster Huan hurriedly beckoned with his hand and the fire python fled. After which, it rushed back into his body. It is indeed worthy of being a heavenly flame ranked 12th on the heavenly flame ranking. I must admit its greatness. Grandmaster Huan finally sighed in relief as bitterly laughed after pulling back the fire python. Congratulations, Grandmaster Huan, you have succeeded. Tang Zhen smiled and said. After which, his eyes slid to the other external elder from the pill tower. Grandmaster Xiao, it is your turn. TL. This Xiao is not Xiao Yan's Xiao. The flame belonging to this Grandmaster Xiao was not as powerful as that of his companion. From the way Xiao Yan saw it, it could only be considered an upper-middle level beast flame. It was likely that he would not be able to endure for 10 minutes by using this kind of beast flame to contend with the 9-dragon lightning flame. It was just as Xiao Yan had expected. When the 7-minute mark passed, the blue-colored flame was unable to endure any longer, and it was torn into pieces by the 9 fire dragons that pounced forward together. Grandmaster Xiao could only sigh when he saw this. He shook his head at Tang Zhen before returning to his seat. This kind of test not only tested one's spiritual strength, but also tested whose flame was stronger. Disappointment flashed across Tang Zhen's eyes when he saw that Grandmaster Xiao did not endure until the end. He sighed, I have troubled everyone. Currently, only Grandmaster Huan alone has passed the test. However, the old me needs 2 people. Isn't there still an alchemist, Grandmaster?